Welcome to the fourth video of the session. I hope you are finding it interesting. I'm sure that you must have the third assignment ready with you. Just keep it aside for now. First, we will discuss some FAQs and then we will discuss the assignment. Alright, so let's get started. In the previous video, I explained FAQs with respect to individual stages. Now, I am going to address questions with respect to all these stages collectively. And I'm also going to burst some myths. So let's start with the first question. Some of you might have observed that they have same or very close scores for multiple stages and feel that they are into two different stages at the same time. Some of you might have both factors of growth and maturity stage. Few may also have both factors from saturation and maturity stages common. If you are experiencing something like this, or maybe combination of other stages apart from what I mentioned, then what? Let me tell you that it's completely fine. If you're unable to make a clear-cut differentiation between your stages, then that means you are in the transition. Now you will ask me, Pranav, what is transition? Let me explain. Your practice stages are decided based on what you did in the past and what you're doing currently. It's possible that whatever things you are doing presently are trying to take you to the other stage, but the process is not yet complete. You are in the process of shifting from one stage to another stage, and this is nothing but transition. Now, is it good or bad for you? Well, that depends. For example, if you are in transition of introduction and growth or growth and maturity, then we can consider it as good and progressive. And in case if you are in transition of maturity and saturation or saturation and decline, then that may not be a good sign. I'll give you more clarity on this when we discuss how to shift your stages. Now, I want to clarify one thing here. Having some connection with two stages is okay, but if you think that you have deep correlation with almost every stage, or if your score is nearly the same for more than two stages, then you might be doing something wrong while identifying your practice stage. See, when you correlate your practice stages and record your scores, make sure you have considered the practice status for at least the past 1 year. Let me give you an example. Say you have a 2-year-old practice and today you got your first full mouth case. Then with this one case, your stage doesn't shift from introduction to growth or from growth to maturity. Similarly, if you have been seeing 100 patients every month, but there were only 50 patients in this particular month, then it doesn't mean that you have shifted to saturation stage. One should not evaluate the stages based on what happened in a day, week or month. You need to evaluate your stage based on how it performed over the last 1 year. I hope this will clear the confusion, if any. Now, I would also like to add something here. Sometimes situations like natural calamities, pandemic or other natural disasters may affect your practice for a long period of time. If this happens, you should consider your practice status before the mishappening. Okay, let me tell you why. When something like COVID hits the market, it affects almost everyone. It's not that only your practice will get affected. It's going to affect every dentist around you. Previously, I had told you that you can reverse, forward, skip or delay stages. Now there is also something that is state of pause that makes your practice and practices all around stand still. You enter in the state of pause when something affects all the practices around you. It can be because of anything like natural calamities, social issues or anything like that. Now, when situations resume to normal, all the practices will start in the same stage where they had entered to the state of pause. For example, a practice in introduction will resume in introduction stage. A practice in growth stage will resume in the growth stage and likewise. Of course, you have to go through some hardships while resuming from the state of pause to your normal stage, but they all are temporary. Alright, now let me clear one more confusion or say myth. Many of you might have considered that they are in maturity stage, but it may be a false positive result. You all know the key factor for maturity stage. It is that you practice in the autopilot mode, but most dentists misunderstand this. Let me clear this confusion by simply putting you in a situation. Consider that you are going on a month-long vacation with your family. Now, when you are not available for your practice, does your clinic run smoothly while maintaining the same revenue? Answer this honestly. If only when your answer is yes, you are truly in maturity stage. In fact, I would consider your practice in the maturity stage even if it is able to maintain 80% of revenue in your absence. But if your practice is not efficient and progressive in your absence, then you are not in the maturity stage. Most probably, you will be in the growth stage. Alright, so now let's move on to one more important question. Which is the best stage of practice? What do you think? Any guesses? Let me know your answers in the comment section below. I'm sure most of you would say it's maturity or growth. I have strong analysis, isn't it? Now, if you ask me, I would say maturity as the best stage and growth as the second best stage. The reasons are obvious. In the maturity stage, you don't need to work for money. Money works for you. And this is why you are in the best version of your personal life. The practice is on autopilot mode and grows consistently even without your presence. You have everything in balance, say time, money, reputation, etc. My second preference goes to growth stage because it is the second most progressive stage. It lacks the comfort and convenience which is there in the maturity stage, but as far as your hard work is helping you in exponential growth and the balance sheet is getting stronger and stronger, why would you mind? In fact, it's best if you keep switching between your growth and maturity stages. It is something that will make you very progressive. Let me tell you how. In maturity stage, your practice is balanced. You're consistently growing, but your growth rate is not as high as it is there in the growth stage. It's just that you don't have fluctuation in income. Now, let's say you are in the maturity stage. Practice is running smoothly, your annual income is say 100 and it's growing at the rate of 20 to 30% every year. Now if you wish to grow with the same speed, then that's fine. But if you decide to scale up and double your income to 200, then for achieving this, you will have to invest in practice. You will have to put money in gadgets, team, marketing, etc. Now say, if you decide to add CAD/CAM or CBCT or microscope or any other gadget to your practice, which is expensive as far as your income is considered, or you decide to renovate your practice and add a few more chairs to accommodate more patients. Now, when you make such investments to your facility, it will need you to give more time and efforts to your practice. The moment you invest extra time to practice, it creates a temporary imbalance in your personal life. And this is when you shift to growth stage from the maturity stage. You continue to be in the growth stage until you scale up your practice and get back to a balanced personal life. Now, this kind of intentional shifting from maturity stage to growth stage is actually good as it helps you to scale up your practice. I hope you got my point clearly. Now let's talk about one more aspect of scaling up. Some dentists think that they will start second practice after a few years and they would make it a chain of dental clinics. Well, there's nothing wrong if you think on these lines. It's possible and many of you might have done this already. But let me give you some food for thought, some insights. If you are willing to scale up by starting a new facility in a different location altogether, then it requires a different strategy. What usually dentists think is that I have an existing practice which is doing good. I have enough capital. Now let me start a new practice. This is where most dentists go wrong. The second practice doesn't work to their expectations and they close it after a year or two. Let me tell you why this happens. You might be the James Bond of dentistry in your location with many years of experience, but when you start fresh practice, it is going to be in a different stage. It's going to be in introduction stage, whereas your existing practice will continue to be in the same stage where it was. The growth strategy that you will need for existing practice and the new practice will be different, as they are going to be in different stages. The new practice in the introduction stage will carry a neutral reputation among the people which are around the practice. People might not know you as a person, or they may not know about your experience or how experienced you are. That's the reason one has to work hard in order to establish a new practice. If you consider that you are the boss because you have experience and your new practice will pick up on its own, then it's going to be your biggest mistake ever. Many dentists open their second practice based on their success of first practice and carry the same attitude in the new practice and end up closing within a year or so. Remember this forever. A new practice will require a different strategy. I would like to tell you one more thing. You must be wondering how many things I am going to tell you. See, if your existing practice is in maturity stage, then you should not think of adding a new practice. Now, if you are husband-wife duo already having two individual practices, then you should think of third practice only if one of your old practices is in the maturity stage, that is in the autopilot mode. The reason is very simple. The new practice is going to demand more time, more efforts in the introduction stage. Now, if your existing practice is not in the autopilot mode, then your absence from the existing practice is going to cost you some revenue and profitability. Also, switching between two practices may cause physical exertion, stress, and at the end of the month, the total profit from both the practices may not be very encouraging as compared to the efforts that you will put. It's also possible that you make the same profit even after a year from two practices like you have been making from the single practice. This is the reason why many dentists end up closing their second practice in a few years. I hope you will not make such mistake after attending this 1.0. Alright, so let me answer one more question before we proceed with the assignment discussion. Does every practice go through all these stages? The answer is no. You may not experience all these stages. Some practices start in introduction and end up directly in the decline stage. Some practices stay in growth stage for a long time and then they end up in saturation. It never enters or experiences the maturity stage. Your stages depends on what, when, and how you handle situations and make decisions. Alright, so now let's work on your blueprint. Take out your third assignment and let's learn how to shift the gears. In the first assignment, we did the introspection. In the second assignment, we try to understand your practice stage. And in this assignment, we will discuss how you can shift the practice stages. See, every individual has his own goals and you may want to shift your existing stage to some other stage to meet your objectives. Also, I had mentioned that the solutions for transition is shifting your stages. Remember that? So let's discuss how to do that now. So there are 4 basic steps that one has to follow in order to shift the stages. Step 1. You have to write down what's your current practice stage. After listening to me in this video, it must have cleared all your doubts. I'm sure that you have clearly identified your stage and there is no question of any confusion. For most of you, it will be the highest score from the previous assignment, while few of you may need to do some alterations and evaluate their stage again. So once you're done with that, just write down your practice stage. Now step 2. Write down the name of the stage you wish to shift or maintain. So you might want to shift from introduction to growth or from growth to maturity, or may wish to maintain your maturity stage. No one would like to get into saturation or decline, isn't it? So just write down what's your desired practice stage. Now step 3. Identify and write down what all things are holding you back in your present stage. Say, for example, if you are in the saturation stage, what's making you stay in the stage? It can be any of the things like lack of upgradation, not being punctual in practice, too much dependency on team, the attitude like my way or highway, believing that the patients don't have any other option than you. So any of these factors can be responsible for holding you in saturation stage. Now, once you are done with this, follow the step 4. Identify and jot down things that if you follow consciously can take you to your desired stage. I would also suggest to go through the first assignment on introspection and analyze your obstacles, as it will give you much more clarity. For example, if you wish to get into growth stage, what will it take? You just have to think, is it upskilling, upgradation, marketing, being punctual in practice, being polite with patients? Whatever you think will help you to get in the growth stage, just write it down. Step 5, make an action plan. Start taking tiny steps which are in your total control and start making a difference. Identify what are the things in step 3 and step 4 that you can implement based on their ease of execution, the money and efforts involved. First, focus on things that will take relatively less efforts and money. Once you fix the primary things, then you should proceed with the next level solutions. When you work consistently on all these steps, shifting your stage won't be difficult. I hope now you understood how you can shift your stages. It's not going to happen overnight, but with this approach, it will take as less time as possible. Alright, so this was to give you the basic idea of how you can shift your stages. Now, let me tell you something. If you wish to shift your practice to maturity, then this is not going to be enough. It requires many more things, and that's what we are going to discuss in the next video. But before moving forward, make sure you have completed your third assignment. See you in the next video.